Hi everyone. As you may know, we have a fairly lengthy presentation about church history. We're going to answer the question of where does the church come from in a much shorter video today. So church history, firstly, is the story essentially of God's love throughout human history. God's love for his creation, bringing us from ignorance to knowledge of him. It starts all the way in the Old Testament, from the beginning of time, through Christ and his apostles, and all the way through to the present day. History encompasses everything like that. After Jesus rose from the dead, the apostles preached everywhere they could. From Spain to India to Kiev to Ethiopia. Really, when they were told to go to the ends of the earth, they took it literally. Judaism then was fulfilled. Judaism was transfigured through Christ, and this became known as Christianity. And this is why a lot of our worship, when we look at that later, this is why a lot of our worship is rooted in Jewish liturgical practice. So one of the things that we have to look at is church order. So the church continued. After Christ's ascension, the apostles spread the gospel as far as they could. And they went around appointing successors called bishops, who oversaw the church in that community. That's where the term bishop comes from, to oversee. And this is what apostolic succession is. It's the continuity of ordination from the apostles to now, and the continuity of faith from the apostles to now. And a three-tier ministry arose in the church. At the top was the bishop, who held authority in a particular place. After that were the priests, and they went where the bishop couldn't go. They were there to support the bishop. And the word priest came into English via a number of different languages, but it came from the original Greek word for elder. So this is the position that priests hold today. Deacons acted on behalf of the bishop, particularly in a charitable role. So that was the beginning of the diaconate in terms of charity. It later became a more liturgical and educational and administrative role, but nonetheless, it was still there to support the bishop and to support the bishop's diocese. We'll try and do 1900 years in one slide. It will be a bit of a challenge, and it's not something that we can do comprehensively today, but it is something that we do much more comprehensively in one of our other videos. So from 33 to 300, there was this empire-wide persecution of Christianity off and on. The big heresies here were Gnosticism and Docetism. So even back here, we were still dealing with theology because it was important. Even in the face of martyrdom, what we knew of God was still important. Just after that was the Edict of Milan, which legalized Christianity. It didn't make it the favored religion or anything like that. It just legalized it. It meant that Christians no longer were martyred for their faith. Monasticism arose as a sort of reaction to this, where Christianity in the cities became widespread and complacent. Monasticism was a place where people could go to fully devote themselves to the life in Christ. From 325 to 787 were the 7 ecumenical councils, and they defined most of the theology that we accept today. They defined the Trinity, they defined Christology, they defined our theology of salvation, and they also talked about the incarnation, and this is where we get our iconography from. From 800 to 988 was the evangelization of the Slavs, and around that time, and spanning a little after that, was the split between Orthodoxy and Catholicism. In 1453 was the fall of Constantinople, and then in 1821 saw the Greek Revolution, and that saw the freedom of the Church of Greece. Soon after, though, the Russian Revolution saw the rise of communism, which also saw the freedom of the Russian Church lost. When it comes to Orthodoxy in Australia, our own land, many Orthodox arrived here from different places and for different reasons. So the rise of communism, World War II, economic problems, civil war, the fall of communism, and war have brought many Orthodox people to our own country. And this explains the reason why there's a number of different jurisdictions. Simple practicality has necessitated this for us, and has meant that this is the best way of having the church in a particular place. In our own country, the largest number of parishes and communities and monasteries are held by the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of Australia, followed by the Serbian Orthodox Metropolitanate, and then our own Rokor Diocese and the Antiochian Orthodox Archdiocese. Orthodox Christianity is the 5th largest religious grouping in Australia, somewhere between the Reformed tradition, which is where Presbyterian churches, for example, would sit, and Buddhism. In Queensland, we have 11 parishes in Brisbane, we have 3 parishes on the Gold Coast, and we have 14 in the rest of Queensland. Our own parish, that of Holy Annunciation Orthodox Church, was established in 1972, was the first English language parish in Australia in 1986. And we serve the Orthodox Christians of the Greater Brisbane area with services in English, and we also welcome those who wish to be part of the church that Christ founded.